everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of the Bao Podcast. Today, I'm with a new guest, Sven Grooten. Sven is one of the founders of B-architecten. Throughout the years, he started two spin-offs named B-bis and B-city. Today, B-architecten, B-bis and B-city has grown into a combined office of more than 75 people. Each B team has its particular focus and way of functioning, yet they all share a distinct, innovative view on the variety of projects the B platforms stand for. I only met Sven a few months ago at an event where he was a speaker, but I found his view on construction enormously interesting. So when I was thinking about potential guests for the show, Sven immediately popped up in my mind. So Sven, hello, and thank you for being here today. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. It's the first day of spring, so the sun is shining and I'm happy to be here.
That's good to hear. Maybe a little bit, keep the mic a little bit closer to the, yes, perfect. Okay. Yeah, indeed, it's beautiful weather. So it's a good day to do a podcast. All right, let's maybe start at the beginning. You are one of the founders of B-architecten. Maybe could you explain a little bit where the idea for B-architecten came from and where your interest in construction started?
Well, we started in 97 and I started together with Evert and Dirk, my two partners. We just graduated at the Berlage Institute in Amsterdam, an international master school of architecture and urbanism in Amsterdam. And at the same time, so it was 97, I was still studying there, the Flemish government organized a competition. Actually, it was the first open competition, architectural competition for the new theater building, the Beurschapsburg in Brussels. And it was the kind of first open competition. It was anonymous, so it was the first time everybody could participate. And I asked Evert, maybe we can do a proposal together. So I was still studying there, and we got to the first round, and finally we won the competition. So actually, we won the first big open competition of the Flemish government. I was still studying somehow, and that was actually the start of B-architecten. So there was no big plan, but there was a lot of ambition, because what is especially at the Berlage Institute, so it's an international school, it's a very small scale, it's only 17 students each year that could enter the studio, maximum 2 people of the same country. So it's a very international, education actually. So there were people from China, Japanese, Americans, Italians, Koreans, from everywhere. And we had to work kind of very hard together because every 2 weeks we had a big deadline because all the star architects were teaching there, like Rem Koolhaas, like Zaha Hadid, like Liebeskind, like all the big names were there like every 2 or 3 weeks. So it was kind of very, for us as youngster, it was kind of, of course you would like to prove that you're a good student for these star architects. So the deadlines were like every 2-3 weeks, but it was impossible to do it on your own because it was too much work. So we had always to go into collaborations with other architects studying there, or other students studying there. And actually it is this way of working, like always collaborating with other people, this is somehow the DNA of B-architecten as well. So that's why we called us in the beginning not like Krols, Engel, Grooten or something like our surnames, because it's more like kind of Laura's office. No, we start from an abstract name, B, because we were convinced that it's not the ego that counts, but it's a collaboration between people. It's much stronger, and therefore, that was the beginning of B-architecten, that we are convinced that this way of working, always fighting for the best idea, and that it's not my idea or yours idea. No, it's like trying to improve each other to develop the best concept actually. And that's still in the DNA of B-architecten and as well in B-bis and B-city. But it's on. We are working on these different skills now, trying to do the best for the society. Actually, that's what we are trying to do.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Maybe first of all, I find it a very beautiful idea behind the fact that the collaboration is the key aspect that defines the culture. But maybe first, before we dive a bit deeper into B-architecten, I never heard about this architect school. It sounds like the Hogwarts of architecture or something, like the NBA of architect students.
Yeah, but there are different ones. You have AA in London, you have the Berlage. It was in Amsterdam. Now they moved to Delft. You have the ETH in Zurich, of Columbia in the States. So there are different kind of international schools. There are few, and it's kind of hard to enter because. But when you're in, it's a great experience. And I had the opportunity to do it for 2 years because I was supported by Interbuild and they paid my entrance fee. So I'm very grateful to them still because my parents were not able to pay it. But it was a big chance and a big opportunity to have this experience during 2 years in this kind of very international atmosphere because a Japanese architect works different than an American, like an Italian, because we all have different traditions. But it's and it's not trying to convince my idea by you, but trying to accept your idea so I can really understand what you want to develop. And it's in that sense that's very interesting to collaborate with this in this international way of working. And it's still in our office because our office, we're like 75 people. Yeah, the majority is people from Belgium, but we have as well a kind of, I think like 20 people coming from other countries, mainly from Europe. It's very inspiring to get inspired by other cultures.
Mm-hmm. And this is an education you do after you've got your master's in architecture?
Yeah, so in that time it was called a master degree. Today we will call it a master Nama. Manama. But so you have to have already a graduation as an architect, and then you can do it some extra developments. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds very, very interesting to do. But and then you get this first big assignment, but you don't have an office yet.
No. Yeah.
So how does that work? You just start designing and then.
It was like that. Yeah. So it was. Yeah, we have to. We were young. I was like 26. So you just start and you buy a first computer. I go to my parents and can I borrow some money because I need a computer to start an office, and it was like that. And we just started first with one computer for 3 guys, and after some weeks we were able to buy the second computer, and it went like that. It was improvising.
It's very cool that the government did that because. Every time that we look today at like bigger governmental assignments, there are like very strict like measurements that you need to achieve as a business, and also the administrative load that's today the hurdle to jump. For us, if it's a bigger assignment, we have done smaller ones, but if it's like the size of what you're mentioning now in Brussels, I don't think we would have the option to do it today. Is that changed?
Well, no, we still have, in Dutch we call it the open oproep, the open call of the Vlaamse bouwmeester. Mm-hmm. It's somehow still possible there to participate as a kind of very young professional, young architect. So in theoretical way, it's still possible to get this kind of assignments. But there are still this kind of open competitions. They still exist as well in Belgium. But what I discovered the last years is that, it's maybe harder, I think, now to start as a young office because we had we were this kind of the first generation. You had the generation of the 80s. It was Christian Kiekes, it was the beginning of Robert ten Dam, and so this was the generation before us. So they did some openings already to make the architectural scene a little bit more, to raise the quality actually. And we came just behind them as a new generation. We started together with 51 N4E. It's a kind of similar approach that a group of people start working together. Before us, it was Paul Robrecht, and it was Stefan Beel, or it was Xavier de Geiter. They were the names. And we are the first generation, I think, that started not with names, but more like with a system, like a way of working together, a collaboration. It was more kind of network kind of working, and not this kind of more personal approach of a kind of star architect or this kind of ego. No, we have kind of more this kind of horizontal way of making together projects.
Mm-hmm. I remember during your talk at the event in Antwerp that you were also, that's something that really stuck to me, like the idea that you had that architecture should be more a part of the education as a whole, that it's not something that you just get when you go study architecture, but that it should be a key component of the general education platform.
Yeah, I think it has to be, because what surprised me, like everything that we share, it's educated from the little children till you're like 18 years in secondary school. It's like language, that's what you share. History, that's what you share. Mathematics or sciences, everything, history. Everything what we share is assigned from like the primary school till the secondary school. But yeah, our built environment is as well something very important that we share. But actually, in my period, it was okay, it's like a long time ago, 40 years ago or something. But the only thing I learned in my whole education before I started architecture in the primary school and secondary school is the styles. It's about the Doric style, the Greek style, the Roman style, the Renaissance, the Baroque. So it was more about taste, but not about the built environment and how to deal with it. And I think while everybody can decide himself, especially in Belgium, where I wanted to build my house, I think it's all these kind of little decisions are made by people who are not always, I think, aware about their responsibility, that they all taking a small piece of land, but a lot of people who take a small piece of land for themselves, it's kind of killing our environment. And this is totally different, for example, in Italy. If you see in Belgium, okay, the majority of the people, when you're 18 years old and they don't know yet what I will become later, what would be my profession later, the majority will, what they do, they start studying economics or Paul and soccer, political social sciences, or maybe law or something like that. But in Italy, it's different. When people are not, they don't know yet which kind of profession they would do later, they start studying architecture. And because architecture is a kind of very wide education, because it goes about, as well about creativity, but as well about society, as well about philosophy, as well about history, as well about science. So it's a very wide orientated education, and I think that you see it in the landscape between Belgium and Italy, that, in Italy, it's kind of very well maintained, and a lot of people take care about the majority of this landscape. And I think in Belgium, it's more kind of an Excel sheet that we are living in, with everything has to make money. And that's, I think, what you see. This is what I'm trying to bring into the discussion is why isn't it possible to bring all the people more conscious about our built environment and about how we have to deal with the landscape and the cities. And I think it's important that even as well small children already get the notice of that's very important to deal with it, that we think on the long period and not on my own little plot of land.
Mm-hmm.
I read a study, it was a study from the 90s, and it's done by the University of Antwerp in the 90s, and it's recently done again, that the dream how young people wanted to live later when they are like 25 or 30, it's still an individual house on the countryside. Yeah, but we are 2022, so so still the people are dreaming of their dream house, individual house somewhere out, in nowhere actually, and that's it's threatening, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that if you grow up in it in Belgium, mostly as a Flemish person, you think it's normal. Like you think it's normal that when you drive from a village to village, that everything is just built next to the road. I remember it very vividly. Then when I grew up, I thought it was the most normal thing in the world. And then you start traveling a bit, and then you see more and more like, okay, even when you just went to the Netherlands, like, okay, this looks different. But again, I can imagine if you don't get the education or the official background to it, a little bit more on at school, that you question it less than if you would just experience it yourself, basically. So I think there is indeed a good argument to make to, during the education, make the students or make young Belgians like question, is this normal? Because personally, I think our northern neighbors do it way better. It's way better planned. There's who said it again? Recently, there was also someone here who explained that in Belgium, the individual, only the individual property is respected, and the collective is just, that's from no one. So no one takes care of it. While in the Netherlands, it's more, right, the individual is of course also important, but the collective space is also very important, and that there's a link to the religion, that we are very, how do you call it, Rooms-Catholic, and that there is more been a focus in Belgium on the family home from the religion perspective, while in the Dutch society and history, that there was more attention also from a religion perspective on the collective. Right. And I find it very fascinating how that can be represented in the world that you live in.
Yeah, but I think it's right what you're saying, and what is as well a benefit for the people in Holland. Of course, you have a collective enemy, and it's the water.
Right. Yeah.
And it helps as well to that everybody's somehow fighting against the water, and therefore the land is we have to take care about how to deal with it. And now, as well here, we have a kind of collective enemy. It's a climate change. So I'm sure, the mind shift has to take in place somehow. And somehow I see we all, I think, see some small changes, but yeah.
Do you think it's going fast enough?
Not it can be faster, of course, but every small step, it's, I was, last week even in the newspaper when they published the pollution of the air in Brussels, and it's in Brussels. Everybody expected it would be worse, and in some areas of Brussels there is some good air actually. Some in the poorer areas like Anderlecht, Molenbeek, there is still a big problem, but other areas they were like more positive than we all expected. So, okay, it's a small step, but a long way to go. But
that's nice. I think now with the electrification of transport in the coming years, I think that will do a lot as well on that front. I think the electric cars will become the norm way quicker than we are now expecting. Anyway, are there other signals that you're seeing in the market now in Belgium which make you hopeful? That you think, okay, this is something that gives me hope for the near future on the aspect of on an environmental level, but also that the mind is that the perspective is changing, that we're more respecting the collective space.
I think there are some. When I see the generation of my children, they are now like around 20. They are less dealing like we did about property, and it's more about sharing already. Okay, it's a small group yet, but I think the idea about sharing and not having, or how to say it, having everything in I think this idea of, I think this is important, because when you share something, you take care about what you share, and you can give it, and it's as well the whole idea about circularity. It's about that you don't obtain a space or a house or a bike or a car, but that you just use it for a certain time. And this reminds me on this kind of this American Indian guy who said, we don't belong the earth, but we could use it for a while. And I think we have to think in that direction as well in everything what we need, that we don't have to buy it and to keep it, but that we just use it like when we need it, and then we give it to the next generation or to the next user.
So that would mean we should also start looking to buildings as temporary storage of the materials that are inside them.
Absolutely. Or some parts of buildings, I can imagine as well that some elements of the building can remain for like 200 years. Mm-hmm. And of course, and it's maybe as well a handful that we, in the city centers that we make kind of clever structures that stay for a very long time, and that other parts are maybe more kind of a storage of materials like you mentioned it, and that you can use it like in 15, 20 years, you can dismantle it and use it for some other uses. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe let's go back a little bit to B-architects. So can you explain a little bit more what's the philosophy of the office? We already heard that it's more about the collective than the individual ego-driven architect philosophy. But during your talk, that I remember you also gave some really great examples about how the circular or more environmentally focused idea is also a key part of the organization. So could you maybe say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so what is the mission and the vision of B is like that we believe that we can make a change and that we can help building on a healthy environment. This is what we wanted to do, and we do it on 3 different scales. B-bis, it's a small scale project, so more like interiors, individual housing, this kind of small interventions.
How is that called?
B-bis.
B-bis.
Yeah, and if you say it in English, it's babies. So it's like small children, so it's babies. Okay. Then we have B-architecten. It's kind of the bigger projects like architecture, like social housing, apartments, libraries, theaters. So it's a kind of the bigger architectural buildings. And then we have B-city, and B-city it's more urbanism. Very important in urbanism is that the design process is important, but the process in dealing with all the people, like from politicians, administrations, developers, neighborhoods, it's as well very important. So, because if you do urbanism or architecture or this kind of small-scale projects, the way of dealing with a client, with a project, it's totally different. So therefore, I don't believe that an architectural office we are not a Procter & Gamble who sell butter and some soap, and no, we are in 3 different offices because each office has its own specialism and the architects working in B-bis, they have a totally different attitude in the way of working. We all believe in the same healthy society, but when you deal with an individual client with kind of small details for an interior, it's different than an architect who is working on an urban plan. Because you have to think totally different. It's another strategy, it's another way of dealing, it's another type of client, it's another type of process. And therefore, it's 3 different companies dealing with these 3 different scales. And then if you, maybe what I told you about, what you remember you from this conference some months ago, it's, when you start thinking about circular building, because this was a theme at the time, it was like, one of my starting points is if you think and if you are convinced about circular building, you have to dare stop designing. And what I wanted to say is that in the 80s you had the star architects, and then you have all these architects who have kind of style. But if you really want to think about circular building, you have to be able to use materials that you find and use them in a clever way. So it's it's more kind of methodology and a kind of trying to make, with kind of recuperation what you find, or think if I use materials, how someone else can use it in 25 years. It's a totally another way of designing, and so it's not really kind of, There are some architects a long time that are convinced that a certain style is important. I'm not convinced at all anymore. And that's the way of working that B always, therefore B, it's kind of, what's B? We don't have a style, we have a methodology. And this is what we do. Each building looks different because it's depending of the situation, but as well which materials are there and what can we reuse or what can we use. And maybe there's a kind of ugly building, but we keep it because it's a good building. And so it's not about style, it's okay, what is the structure? Does it fit the program? Maybe we can adapt the program a little bit so it fits into the building. This is really circular way of thinking because, you have to try to use as less materials as possible. So sometimes, we have to convince our clients that, the program, you can work on the program or you can work on the building. And maybe the building is already there, so... Mm-hmm. So this is another approach, I think, that we are convinced with B-architecten that this is as well important. And sometimes some clients accept it and some not. It's not always successful, of course, but that's the first thing that we do. For one example was, for example, a Muntpunt or a Scoutshuis, or now the new police, the main police building of Brussels. We were the only team who said we are going to keep the building. And okay, there are some constraints that it's not a perfect building, we know, but it's 50,000 square meter concrete, who is there? So yeah, then we have really to convince me and the society why to demolish it and to build a new building with columns like 40 centimeters more wide, why this is so much better, for example. And this is the discussion that you have to dare, because of course as an architect it's maybe sometimes for a client as well less sexy, because it's another way of making an iconic building. It's not about taste anymore, it's more about, and this is the circular way of thinking that I think it's very important that we all start, a new way of thinking. And that's what we try to do with B.
Yeah, I think it's a very, again, beautiful and elegant way at looking at potential solutions for the many issues that we're facing in the market now. But I remember also that you mentioned during the talk, which really felt for me like a systemic issue, that it was in contrast to the business model of an architect often. Because if I remember, you told that the bigger the budget of the building, that the most architects work on a commission basis on the cost that's going to be spent at the site, so that the incentives for the architects are to build that new building, because they earn more if they go for the new building than if they would reuse the existing structure. And for me, that was I've been active in the construction market now, not that long, 3 years commercially, and then in development a couple of years before, but so not that long. But that was for me a real aha moment. I was like, oh yeah, of course, they all want to build the new building. And it's maybe not on purpose, because I think people are very incentive driven. So maybe it's not a decision that they make fully on purpose, but it's just the incentives. That's how the model works. And maybe we should think about how to change that on a systemic level.
I agree with what you say. And you have this, but I know some architects that's not only by budget, but it's as well ego-driven.
Right. I can imagine.
And there's this kind of, but I'm sure it will change in some years. And you see already a lot of young officers, and they are as well already dealing with this new approach that this kind of making iconical buildings is less important than making kind of sustainable building. It's much more important. But okay, it will always. We can't change the other. We only can change ourselves. We are trying to convince what we are doing. If we are convincing the way we are working, and we try to convince our clients. And other people work on another way.
But it does seem to work, right? Because how long are you active now?
Almost 25 years. Yeah.
Okay, but you're growing quite well, right?
Yes.
So it does work.
Yeah, but I have to be honest as well. This kind of sustainability, when we started with B-architecten 25 years ago, it was not an actual team at all at that time. It's recently, since let's say 10 years, that it really became as well in our scope, and we were immediately convinced that we have to change somehow our mission and vision, and that we said no, we really believe. If you see the climate change, if you see how cities are going warmer and warmer, the water problems and all these things, we were immediately convinced, okay, we have to collaborate to try to find solutions to solve it, and not to make it worse, because.
Mm-hmm. So it was changed throughout the 25 years?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think 25 years ago, nobody was. The first project we ever did, not the first, it was the BSB bis, where we built a temporary theater with sandbags and this kind of glass houses. Maybe it doesn't exist anymore. But and at that time, and actually maybe it's the first circular building in Belgium. Maybe I'm not going, but because what we did, but this was on budget reasons, because we had to make it a theater, and the budget was €60 a square meter, so it's nothing. So the only solution that we could find was with some people who were very handy to reuse existing doors from an old building that was next to it, to reuse the lighting system. So a lot of things are reused. But at that time, I have to be honest, now I can say we did it for circular reasons. No, it was for budget reasons, because it was cheaper. And it looks somehow a kind of rock and roll, because it was a kind of a collection of everything what we could reuse from somewhere else. And therefore we made, with these materials, we made a kind of new theater, a temporary theater. But actually this is kind of the approach that was at that time for budget reasons, but actually it's a circular way of thinking. And this was somehow the first seed that we planted in this kind of belief that, and actually because it was not designed, because it was a kind of, the building was a kind of, the result of finding solutions. So there was no kind of master plan of a taste or design after it. But somehow we got a lot of architectural prizes, because it was the Flemish government, the Minister of Culture, it was that time Bertanciot, he said, we have to classify it, we have to make a monument out of it. He said it, but of course they didn't do it. But just to, it was I think one of the first seeds in this kind of circular way of thinking. Mm-hmm. But we were not conscious at that time.
No, it's something you grow into. Yeah. But if you think about it, if you look at it from that perspective, then the rising construction costs, especially that we're now facing again in the last 12 to 18 months with the supply chain issues, and the circular challenges or the more environmentally conscious construction that we need to do, if I hear what you say, they are almost like they work perfectly together from a certain perspective. If you can, from a sense that if you can leave the building, if you can leave the structure, it's more environmentally friendly and it's more budget friendly in most cases. No?
Budget friendly not all the time, because a lot of constructions are not really used still in renovating buildings. The big companies, they don't have it still a lot of experience in renovating buildings. If you see the Zin project in the heart of Brussels, it got some prizes. The WTC building, it's a circular building, but they break it down and they are building it up again. So I never understood where is the circularity there. It's a project of 100,000 square meter. It was there. They break it down and now they build it up again.
The structure remained?
No, only the 2 lift shafts.
That's it?
Yeah, I live in Brussels, so I pass by. So I know. It's only 2 lift shafts that remains. Everything is demolished.
Okay. All right, I thought the levels would stay.
No, they demolished everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. Okay, yeah, then it's not really that affordable, probably. No, okay. Are there any, are there like other architects or agencies that inspire you on this front, that you say on a global level that are doing some really great stuff on the environmentally friendly construction, circular construction movement?
Yeah, I think in Belgium, I really was impressed that the first office, I think, or team was at the Rotor. Mm-hmm. They started, I think it was 2004 or something. They really started in collecting materials, trying to find to demolish. When the building was demolished, they were trying to reuse the materials and try to resell them again. So I think they were really pioneers in Belgium for this kind of circular way of thinking, building. So they are, and now they are, kind of market leader, I think, because they have this very.
BC Materials are they connected to them?
I know, maybe,
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. On an international level, any names that come to mind?
Yeah, but I forgot now. It's not popping up. But this the Dutch architect. What is his name again? Who really believes in everything is a service. Building is a service. Light is a service.
Yeah. Who developed it together with with Philips.
Yeah. So that you don't buy a lamp, but that you buy the service of light. That you don't buy an installation, but that you buy a service of ventilation, for example. Because if you buy a service, the developer of the service he has to see that it has a long term. So it's really it pushes everybody to start thinking in the long way of thinking, long period thinking, and not the short way. What is still the most developers? What is their scope? 5 years, because they sell a project in 5 years, and later on, it's not from us anymore. So this property way of thinking is for me kind of contradiction in a circular way of thinking. So in all the decisions that we made, we really have to dare to think on a long period of time and not a kind of short period of time. What are the most of developers doing? Because I sell something, and when it's sold, my responsibility of the quality is less, maybe 10 years or but not 50 years. And I think this can bring a new way of thinking in our way of building.
So is the design, build and maintain model that now a lot of the big contractors like Van Rooij that we know a bit better, is that a positive evolution then in your extent?
For the circular way or for the long term of way of building, I can imagine that it helps. Yeah. For the quality, it can be. On the other hand, I think the government has as well some responsibilities because sometimes what is the reason that the governments now goes into this design, build and maintenance? It's that they are not able anymore to do it themselves, and they bring it all to the private companies. So I'm not really convinced that this is a kind of way of to push the neoliberal way of thinking, or that it's really on quality. I'm not convinced what is the answer yet.
Yeah, it's because I need to. It's not because there's a broad vision behind it. Okay. All right. I want to respect your time, so maybe we're gonna shift a little bit more to a little bit like shorter questions. Do you have any specific goals for like what you still want to achieve in the next couple of decades together with the organization? Is there something that you say like that would be amazing if we can realize that as with B-architects or with B-city?
As on a project level or as a company level?
Both.
Both. Yeah. I would like to design a cemetery.
That's a very unexpected answer. Okay.
And because it's designing for eternity.
This is true. Correct.
And that's, I think, what as an architect I really would like to think about. What could it be, and which kind of cemetery it would be? Maybe. This is more kind of on a project level. And on the company, I'm convinced that because it's B-city, B-architecten and B-bis, and maybe in the future some other teams we are preparing. I'm convinced that our approach, because now we have a lot of projects in Flanders and in Brussels. So we now go as well to Wallonia, to Charleroi, and we are now working as well on the future that it can remain, because we are the first generation, and we are now preparing for the second generation, or the third and the fourth, so that not only our project but as well our company can be a kind of sustainable way. So this is what I'm now really, as a kind of general director, working on how we have to, what is necessary that B-architecten becomes as well a kind of sustainable company for not only the project but as well the company.
So that's on an organizational level,
Yeah.
on like the structure behind the business. So it's you're thinking about making it, how do you say it, cooperative, something like that.
This could be an answer, but it's more about what is necessary that it stays forever. And it, of course, it has maybe to do with kind of cooperation, or maybe the structures or the methodologies, or what is necessary that it stays forever. Because I do believe that to have kind of impact in Belgium or everywhere, because you have the project, but we do as well we write, we do discussions, we want to influence as well the government. So we are not only designing, we are as well working on other ways to because our goal is ambitious to make a better society. So then you can't make a better society not only by designing buildings. You have to do as well influence politicians. You have to try to influence the way how it's going, and this is what we are now working on. How can we be more influence the processes and how Belgium becomes a more sustainable country.
Mm-hmm. I think the positive side, if you succeed in Belgium, then I think it's going to be way easier to do it in any other country. That's always what I keep in mind, because the complexity and the language barriers and the government levels, if you can succeed in doing it here, it will probably be quite a lot easier in other markets.
Yeah, but it's for my next life, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. If there was one specific thing today in the general construction market, if you would be like emperor of construction for a day and you could change one thing in the entire process, is there one specific thing that you would think of, like, if that would be like removed or improved, that would help with the entire process so much?
It's maybe kind of dangerous one, my answer, but maybe that because now it looks that I'm a kind of communist, but it's not at all. But the property of land, that I think in Belgium it's kind of a big problem that,
so much is privatized.
Yeah. When you see in Holland, because when you do construction there, the government really belongs the land, and they give a kind of concession for like 15 or 20 or 30 years, but they really are able to control much more the built environment than we have. And therefore they have much more as well influence on the prices of affordable way of living. And this is what is in Belgium kind of difficult. So I think this is kind of this is maybe an idea that I would like to develop it further. And then the second one is when I really would kind of dictator. This is what you're proposing.
Mm-hmm. Emperor of construction.
Emperor of construction. Yeah. Then I would just say, okay, beton stop from now.
Right. Yeah.
Today, stop. Because actually we built. There is enough buildings. There is enough. I'm convinced there's more than enough, but we have to reorganize it another way, and then that what is still green stays green, and that we don't build anything anymore on green fields. Nothing, zero. It's actually it's kind of easy.
It's more than enough. Yeah, it's true. What is it now? 40 years to complete stop? Only now? Is it 30 years? How long is it still? Yeah. It's like, what are you saying? It's so silly. No, but it's an interesting idea. I once heard about the fact that in Singapore, which is I think the biggest capitalistic success in the last couple of decades, right? If you see the evolution that happened there, how quickly and how successfully everyone got from like I think just very low economic well-being to what they achieved in 20, 30 years. I think it's a very big success for the capitalistic idea. But I learned that all almost all buildings in Singapore are governmental owned. All residential constructions. And that there is a very... I forgot the details. We should definitely put it in the show notes. It's somewhere on YouTube, but it's very beautiful to see that they like guarantee that if you're a Singaporean citizen, how do you say it? Singaporean citizen from Singapore, person living in Singapore with a Singapore passport, that you have a roof above your head.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's it's not a communistic society at all. Like nothing close to it. But that's something that they do guarantee.
Yeah.
And the logic behind it was also very beautiful, but I forgot the details. Okay, let's see. Maybe a question a little bit more connected to the last 2 years. Do you think that the pandemic has affected something in the market? Do you think that there is permanent change after what we went through, or still going through actually, because the figures are going up again?
Yes, like all the other pandemics or epidemics the last 200, 300, 400 years in Europe, it changes each time the cities. So as well, this one will change as well our built environment. And I think because I was as well in the group of Good Living who were thinking about the future of Brussels, and there one of the what we are now trying to oblige in new buildings in the city of Brussels is that each building, neither it's kind of office building or a house, has to have outdoor spaces. Because we are used that a house has a kind of terrace or a garden. It's obliged in the majority of the cities or villages, but for offices it's not. And now because why not actually? It's maybe as well when you need fresh air, or it's kind of so this kind of as well that we are more and more convinced that one of the answers of affordable that the developers mainly said, if you want to build affordable houses, they have to become more small. But when you live in a house with children and you have to work there as well, in small house it's impossible. You need kind of separate space that you can work a few hours a day, concentrate or do Zoom meeting, and while there are 2 or 3 children running around. So I don't believe that smaller houses are the best solution for have a quality of working and living at home. So I don't believe that this kind of super compact houses guarantees the qualities that we need when we want to live and work at the same place.
Mm-hmm. It will definitely become more challenging, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But how do you, I think no one can deny that if you have more space and you're gonna spend more time at home, that's a good thing. But how do you see, how do you think we can realize this if you see what's happening now in the market with the increased prices of basically every aspect of the construction process, from the land to the materials to the cost of labor? How do you keep it affordable, even if it would need to, as you say, increase in size?
Yeah, I'm not an economist. I'm an architect, and I'm responsible about the quality of living and working and making places. But I think the solution is not to make everything smaller and smaller, that everybody lives in a caravan. I don't think that is the solution. I think we have to rethink about... One of the ideas is that everything what we need, like education, it's subsidized by the government. Culture is subsidized by the government. But the way that we live is almost not subsidized by the government, only for the very poor people. But education, so maybe we have to think that as well the government or our society has a responsibility in trying to solve this kind of way, it's how we live.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it has to do something with the, I don't know, I don't tell you. Today when I see, we design a lot of buildings for social housing as well for developers. The people who live in a social house are more lucky than the people who have to build an expensive flat. Because social housing, it's much more comfortable. It's higher spaces, bigger terraces than what I see that we have to design for developers, for the upper market and the rich people. So there is something that I can't understand really. So that the rich people have smaller houses than the people, and I'm happy for the people who has less money, for sure, because it's much more quality there.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, to make everything smaller, I don't think that is very good on the long term.
Mm-hmm.
No.
You mentioned that in the past, pandemics also changed the cities. How?
Oh, for example, in the Middle Ages and after the Middle Ages and during the beginning of the 19th century, they closed, for example, all the how is it in English, the vlieten,
the waterways.
The waterways in the cities, because in the Middle Ages it was the rats and the pest and all this kind of so it really changes the cities, this kind of big pandemic issues as well. Okay, Haussmann, it was for two reasons in Paris. It was as well for the military reasons, but as well to clean up the city and to make broad boulevards and avenues to make the cities more healthy and more air and light into the cities. It was always after a big health crisis that there were big transformations into the cities. And
It's funny because this morning I got a flyer in the mail. I found it this morning in the mail, and it's about the works that they're gonna do on the new parks in Antwerp with the ring, the works that they're doing on the how do you say it, the car lanes outside of the city, and now they are digging up these old waterways, these small ponds and small waterways that have been underground for decades now, and now they're digging them back up again because now it's becoming a positive thing to have more water running through the city.
Yeah.
It's funny how that changes. Okay, maybe final couple of maybe a little bit more fun questions to end with. If you wouldn't have become an architect, what do you think what would have been an alternative profession for you?
Yeah, I always wanted, and I'm not joking, but a bus driver.
A bus driver?
Yeah, but not in the city, but so this tourist bus, and I bring people to to south of Spain or something.
Okay. Yeah, if you would have given me a couple of days, I would have never guessed that. No.
Yeah, because I really like being on the way, and especially at night when you're after the steering wheel and seeing into the dark and nice music and all my thoughts in my head are turning and getting some ideas there. So I really like to be on the way with my motorbike, with my car, and so maybe I thought maybe I would make my profession out of that, of being on the way. Yeah. But it can be as well an airplane, or I don't care what, but it's on the way.
And commute.
Yeah, being on the way.
Okay, that's an original one. We have never had that one.
Oh, okay.
If you could have like a drink and or a dinner, like let's say an evening with someone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive?
Yeah, it can be anyone. God himself. Okay. Whoa. That's a big one. Yeah. What would be like? What would you ask him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would ask him, "Are you dead or alive?"
Yeah.
Because
okay.
Some people said he's dead. Some people said he's alive. Some people said I believe in you. Some people said I don't believe in you. So yeah, I would like to discuss this with him or her. Yeah,
a good drink with God,
and try to understand it. Yeah, and try to find the answer.
Mm-hmm. He or she probably has a good conversation, right? She's been there for a while. Okay, now final one. The pandemic is, let's hope, coming to an end, right? We can already travel more freely again. If there is one location, doesn't really necessarily need to be close by, but if there's a place you could recommend the listeners to go to, that's a really beautiful, great place to visit. Any recommendations?
Now what it has to do with the pandemic?
Yeah, the pandemic is coming to an end. We couldn't travel a lot.
Right, like
but
that.
Now the traveling is becoming back an option. So
Yeah. I am looking forward to go this summer again to the mountains, and as well to walk from mountain to mountain to mountain, and enjoy the landscape, enjoy the nature, enjoy the animals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how and I can recommend it everybody to if you are on the way, it's the same as this what I'm telling, when you're in between. So if you are on the way, or it's in a bus or in a plane or in a car or a motorbike or walking, it's so what I do as well very often is just running. I go running 20, 30, 40 kilometers just to leave everything, to relax actually. And this is maybe just go into your own mind. This is maybe what I would like to invite all the people, like dare to not to go to a swimming pool and drink some bubbles, but try to visit your own brains and mind and thoughts and trust them, because they are worth to discover always.
People have become afraid of doing this. We're so distracted, we're constantly stimulated. I think it's one of the biggest challenges you can give someone today. Just sit for an hour and do nothing.
Yeah, this is the
90% of the people lose their mind.
This is the best holidays.
Yeah,
just travel in your own mind.
Yeah. I think it scares a lot of people, but I second this. I've been experimenting. I've been doing a lot of meditation for 10 years now, and it's one of the better things I've ever learned myself. For sure. Yeah. To learn how to control your own focus.
Right.
Because today your focus gets hijacked left, right, and center, and if you can't control your focus, then you're just going somewhere. But learning where to focus on, it's an important skill, I think. Anyway, a bit philosophical ending of this conversation. Okay, Sven, it's 5:15 on a Friday evening. I think we had a great first edition. You're always welcome to come back for a second conversation. I found it very interesting. Thank you for making time in your busy schedule to do this.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for listening to the Bao Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you're interested in Bao living in our Smart Adaptable Module or SAM, go check out our website baoliving.com. If you want to stay up to date, you can best subscribe to our monthly newsletter on our website or follow us on all social media platforms where we're named @Bao Living.